The Lakers are lucky to be in this scenario this offseason after being blessed by Nico Harrison and being gifted Luka Doncic, an offseason in which Anthony Davis and LeBron James getting closer to their end and potentially even resetting has now fully shifted into a positive outlook for this Lakers team as they look to bounce back and show their dominance, being led by LeBron and Luka to push for one last championship for LeBron's legacy. And I do believe that they're going to go all out to go and try to do that this season, building the perfect team around LeBron and Luka, as they couldn't really do that at the trade deadline last season because there were too many pieces moving around. Welcome back to this NBA offseason breakdown. Today's episode, as you guys can tell, is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. As you already know, if you are a Lakers fan, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Drop them down below and think if I did a good job or if I did a terrible job in predicting what this team should do. Once again, if you do enjoy the content on the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we have these daily offseason breakdowns coming out for you guys. And we've had a plethora of teams already drop already. We're almost finishing this series here now. So definitely go in and dive in on 2/3 of the league that we've already covered before this. Without further ado, let's dive in and let's talk about them Lakers, baby. So once again, like I said multiple times, Lakers looked themselves into this position. There is no way to kind of explain that. The Lakers this season were, middle of the pack in the Western Conference, and then somehow got Luka Doncic, top 5 player in the league. Pair him up with LeBron James. 50-32 on the season. Were eliminated in the first round and by the Minnesota Timberwolves, in which a lot of people did not have, including myself, as a lot of people thought with the Timberwolves' uncertainty with Julius Randle in the playoffs and their young kind of core going against a team with Luka and LeBron made sense. Better players, would be able to kind of translate and take over for the series. But unfortunately, the qualities that the Lakers showed in their front court were completely missing, as the Lakers had no center. As we all know, they tried to do a deal to grab Mark Williams, then rescinded the deal, bringing back Dalton Connect, and then they had Jackson Hayes and Alex Len and Christian Coloco, and that was their center core. Maxi Kleber maybe too, but that was their center core. That was their center. So clear as day, when you go up against Rudy Gobert, and Julius Randle and Naz Reid, it's going to make sense you're going to lose that series because you have no interior presence to guard them or defend them, and that was completely exposed in that series. So once again, Lakers need to address a big man, as you can see in this graphic here by Bobby Marks. They don't even have a center on their thing because they realistically don't. And this is going to be priority number 1 for the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Lakers, somehow, after signing terrible contracts and keeping them on for 2 years, now have flexibility with those contracts because they're all on 1-year expirings, and they do have some future draft capital that they can entice in the trades to, I guess, bring in a center here. So with looking at the Lakers, obviously sitting at $192 million, LeBron's player option is obviously on the line. That's around $50 million, I do believe. So with accepting that, that would be absolutely key for the Lakers. But not only that, they got some, I guess, free agents that they got to keep an eye on. Dorian Finney-Smith, Jordan Goodwin. But besides that, no one really sticking around here over in Los Angeles. And I do expect some of these, again, expired contracts to be rerouted to bring in better players for this Lakers team to really take that leap. Once again, Lakers no first-round pick here, so we will not be looking at the draft for the Lakers today. But let's dive in and let's look at the Los Angeles Lakers and players they could potentially trade this offseason. Alrighty, without a surprise, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about Dalton Connect because, like I mentioned just about a minute ago, he was traded already from this Lakers team, right? They traded him for Mark Williams, then they rescinded the trade because Mark Williams couldn't stay healthy or something like that. The Lakers felt like he wasn't going to stay healthy. I don't know. Maybe they felt like Connect was a better value. Doesn't make sense to me. They clearly needed that center. They still don't need that scoring and shooting. Obviously, they do around Luka Doncic, but moving off a guy Connect is okay. I expect them, once again, with Connect, kind of coming back and being like, all right, hey guys, I'm back. Like, it's not really like a good image to really signal to your organization, bringing back a guy that you traded. I don't think he really feels comfortable. Like, all right, these guys tried to ship me away, now I have to come back. So I think it's just best for the franchise to kind of work on a reroute. Obviously, Connect was a pretty solid scorer alongside LeBron James, was drafted in the late, or at the end of the, not in the lottery, pick like 17 or something like that. A great pickup for the Los Angeles Lakers, in my opinion, as a scorer on the wing coming out of Tennessee. Had a lot of qualities that people didn't like because he wasn't the greatest defender, was a little bit older coming into the draft, but clearly showed you can be a solid catch and shoot player on the wing. And I do think a young team should value a guy in Connect because what the Lakers, we didn't get to see his full potential because, once again, he's playing with LeBron, he's playing with Luka, he's not allowed to take 20, 25, 30 shots. Let Dalton Connect get to an option like Washington or Portland or Charlotte and let him bring out the best that he can be. Yeah, you see Markieff Morris, you see Luka Doncic, they're not getting traded. The player we're talking about is Maxi Kleber. This is the only picture that worked off Getty Images because guess what? Maxi Kleber, I think, played 1, maybe 2 games in the playoffs and was completely awful. They have nothing for Maxi Kleber on the Lakers, so this is your picture of Maxi Kleber on the Lakers. That should just go and show you what the Lakers should do with Maxi Kleber. Once again, stretch big, dealt with injuries, not that great anymore, was a filler contract really thrown into this deal for the Los Angeles Lakers. I expect Maxi Kleber's $11 million as an expiring to be out there on the market, and I would not be shocked if Maxi Kleber is playing for the Brooklyn Nets this next season, the fact that he is an expiring contract, and there's a player on the Nets that would really help out this Lakers team. Another name to talk about, Gabe Vincent, another scorer and shooter that the Lakers said, he worked really well on that Miami Heat team. We're bringing him over here. He's going to be this guaranteed lockdown shooter. And what is he? Very streaky. Very, very streaky. Once again, kind of similar to these Miami Heat guys like Max Strus and even a guy in Gabe Vincent. Once they left Miami, once they left that Heat culture, that system that really put them to their best, they clearly proved that they were occasional good role players. That's what they proved. Ultimately, Vincent being expiring could be helpful for the Lakers in a trade to kind of get a little bit better on the wing department in scoring, or to actually nab that center in a deal with him having a little bit more value than a guy that we just talked about in Maxi Kleber. But I do think the Lakers could prioritize in keeping Gabe Vincent, all due to the fact that they do need scorers and shooters alongside the two playmakers and LeBron and Luka, and Gabe Vincent can do that for them at a pretty decent clip. The only problem is I don't know if he's worth $11 million. So if you're the Lakers and you think that you can get a guy on the free agent market at a veteran deal that can be more impactful than a guy in Gabe Vincent, then I'm trying to trade Gabe Vincent so I can make that move and also save some money. And then the last player that I think they could potentially trade is Jared Vanderbilt. Now, this is a guy that I don't want the Lakers to trade because he's a very solid defender. He's an impactful guy for this Lakers team, but he's just been injury prone, hasn't been able to stay consistently healthy. On the Timberwolves, once again, he was a very good defender, one of the best in the league. And when he was signed with the Lakers, everyone was like, oh, this is the top 2, top 3 defender in the league. And then, once again, cannot stay healthy, cannot be able to play for the Lakers. He's on a long-term deal as well. I think for the Lakers is going to be deemed an untradeable contract for them, as I think they would have to attach capital to get off of a contract in Jared Vanderbilt with how much he is worth, and for the fact that he is inconsistently been able to play for this team, dealing with injuries. But once again, Vanderbilt as a 3-and-D guy, can play the 3, can play the 4, is a very, very impactful defender when he is available, and could be a solid piece in that wing group alongside LeBron and Luka Doncic if they get a very solid center. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on out there if the Lakers can try to move off his contract, but I don't necessarily know if they'll be able to. And I didn't even bring up Rui, which is my bad. Rui, another player that I think could potentially traded from this Lakers team. Once again, if they need to get a certain player as the center for their package. Rui, I don't think the Lakers should try to trade, but once again, he makes, I believe, the most outside of Doncic, Reeves, and James, which I don't think they'll trade. I think Rui makes around 18. So to go out and get one of the centers that I have listed that we'll talk about in just a couple seconds, I think Rui Hachimura would have to be involved in that deal just to make salary work, but not only just that, as he'd be actually the only piece of value going back to that team. We've seen with Rui Hachimura with the Los Angeles Lakers, he can be, a solid starting wing for this team, and I do think that that's really what his peak is going to be. I don't see him being, a number 3 on an NBA team, but I could see him being a quality 4th or 5th option for a good championship or playoff team, and I think Hachimura can add that value to a plethora of teams around the league. Well, let's discuss the center market, where the Lakers will be looking to make a big splash. The first one we're going to be talking about is a little bit on the smaller side. It is Robert Williams. Williams has what the Lakers would love in a center: a lob threat, a rim protector, interior paint beast, someone that is going to fit perfectly right alongside Luka and LeBron James. The only problem is with Robert Williams is his inconsistency once again to stay healthy. Robert Williams has been not only injured with the Celtics' tenure, that he spent with them, but also has been injured for the 2 years that he spent with the Blazers and his tenure there so far. And that's what's really limited Robert Williams to either be to show his skill to be moved on to a different team because the Blazers do have 3 centers, and B, I guess, provide some value at his $13 million contract. Now, once again, for the Lakers, I think this could be a potential piece to go in for, right? Because it's a high value, low investment player, with him being at his peak really, really solid, as we saw with the Boston Celtics, and being a very solid rim protecting starting center. The only problem is, like I mentioned, is can he stay healthy enough to do that? And if you're the Lakers and you're trading for him, I guess the benefit is he's only $13 million, so you'd only have to use one of those contracts in Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleber to get him, which could make it a little bit easier to be able to attain him. The next big I want to talk about is Nikola Vucevic. Now, Vucevic I don't think is the best big for this rotation, but with Vucevic being a big name and the Lakers being a franchise that loves to chase after big stars, I would not be shocked if they went to go out and get Vucevic because he is available. They could use some smaller contracts, like I said, in Kleber or Gabe Vincent, along some second-round picks to nab a guy like Nikola Vucevic, and then ultimately it just would not work and would not fit. Vucevic, a little bit of a slower and more play in the post big. Once again, could be a solid rebounder, but I do think that the Lakers need a defensive interior big, and obviously Nikola Vucevic a little bit better on the offensive side of the basketball and has slowed down a little bit on that defensive side of being an interior defender. Big name, could attract the big name franchise, but I think this other name that I'm going to mention is the piece that they're eventually going to go out and get. And no surprise to everyone, it's Nic Claxton. The name has been mentioned millions of times. It makes the most sense for the Brooklyn Nets, a team that wants to get draft picks, wants to be worse, wants to be towards the bottom, was trying to do that this season, was like, oh no, we'll ride the middle of the path, and then got the 8th overall pick and now is regretting that decision. Has to trade contracts in Cam Johnson and Nic Claxton to eventually bottom out and to get to that position, to be able to draft that number 1 guy that they do want to take this franchise into the positive direction. Once again, the Lakers have 2 future firsts, Dalton Connect, and expiring contracts in either Hachimura or Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, or a contract in Hachimura that they can use to go out and get a guy like Claxton. Claxton, very similar, like a guy like Daniel Gafford, is going to fit in perfectly like a glove into this lineup, playing alongside LeBron James at that power forward position, being that interior defender, rim protector, shot blocker, going up and getting those rebounds, but also not only doing that, being that lob threat for Luka and LeBron in the post as well, running those fast breaks. It's going to be absolutely cinema to see Nic Claxton on this team. And once again, it's the Lakers, it's the Nets. It makes sense here, right? The Lakers, we know how the NBA works, right? They always go out and get the player that they want. They got Luka Doncic. They just pull things out of their ass, incidentally. It's true. They just pull things out of their ass. And they're going to pull Nic Claxton out of their ass, I guarantee it. Because once again, they have the tradable contracts. They have the draft picks to do it. It just makes sense. Why wouldn't Brooklyn want expiring deals and a nice, young, intriguing piece for a guy, Nic Claxton? And why wouldn't the Lakers do that trade? It gives them probably the best center that they can get that fits what they need. It just makes sense for both teams. And it ultimately stings because it is the Los Angeles Lakers that is getting it, and they get everything. But that's how the NBA rolls, ladies and gentlemen. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Once again, what your thoughts are on the Los Angeles Lakers. Do you think I did a good job talking about their offseason, a bad talk doing about their offseason? I do think we will see a guy in Dorian Finney-Smith back as well. I forgot to mention him with the player option, but excited to see what this Lakers team can do this offseason, as once again, lucking out and getting Luka Doncic is going to put this team contending not only just this season, but for the next 5 or 10 seasons as well. So really, really crazy to see. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode here on Switch City, breaking down the Los Angeles Lakers, looking at their offseason breakdown. Once again, if you do enjoy the content, let me know your thoughts down below. Hit the subscribe button and make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's offseason breakdown as we stay out west and cover that 4th and final team that was eliminated in the first round, right over across the street in LA. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.